Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I've wanted to make a video like this for a long time, but I wasn't quite sure how. I've just decided I'm going to go for it. I wanted to address some of the questionable music production and mixing advice that I see all over the internet, whether that's social media, in the comments sections, forums, or in videos. I do want to say most people that share bad advice actually have good intentions, so I'm not here to drag anyone down. As always, I'm trying to build this community up, but there's some stuff that I see shared over and over again that I think is just not helpful. Now, of course, there is a virtually limitless supply of bad advice on the internet. That surprises nobody, but in this video, I'm just going to address 3 topics that I see shared repeatedly. And if this video is enjoyed, I'm more than happy to turn this into a regular segment or series on the channel. But anyway, let's get right into it. This first one shouldn't bother anyone, but the video is going to get more controversial as we go on. This first piece of advice that I see shared is that you should never force art or creative work. You should wait until the inspiration comes to you. I've always said that I think taking time off, living your life is obviously so important to the creative process, but where this fails people, and I hope you've never been in this situation, but I think a lot of us have, and I know I have. You're living your life and an amazing idea just hits you out of nowhere. Maybe you try to take a voice note, you try to write it down, you get to the studio and you find that you're not prepared or your skills are not actually high enough to execute that idea. It's a really bad feeling when your skills are not up to the level of your imagination. Something you can do to help you with this is to simply show up on a more regular basis, to put in the work or the practice, just so that you keep building your skill set and you keep working that creative muscle. Also dropping the expectations and pressure from yourself. I don't worry so much about creating amazing work, I just get some ideas out. And it means that when you do have a fantastic idea and you feel very motivated, your skill level will be high enough that you can actually creatively express yourself in the way you want to. An analogy that might help is thinking, you wouldn't say, oh, I'm never going to go to the gym because I'm not going to lift the heaviest weight on the rack. Or you wouldn't say, I'm never going to go for a run in case I don't get my personal best. The idea with these things is that you sort of show up on a consistent or semi-regular basis. You just start putting down some ideas, typing, creating some music, and before you know it, there's actually something pretty creative happening there. There'll be ups, there'll be downs, but the idea is that you're moving in a good direction. And I wouldn't say that that art is being forced. It's more just that I had to overcome some resistance initially, and then it allowed the creative process to flow. This one's going to be quite a lot of fun. This shows up in comment sections on a virtually daily basis. There's a little bit of debate about what constitutes music theory, but effectively it's just about any sonic phenomenon that you can employ while creating music or sound, including silence. So all the sounds and all the silence and how that combines. So clearly, no one's going to learn absolutely all of it. And it's also true that there are many famous artists that have got all the way to the top of the music industry with no formal music theory training or background. But there is a question that I've asked a few friends and they found it quite helpful, and I'd like to ask you too. If you were traveling, does learning the language of that country enrich your experience of being there, or does it take the magic away from it? Now, in my experience, bearing in mind, I'm pretty bad with languages. I'm trying my best, but I'm learning slowly. I think even knowing a few words or phrases greatly enriches your experience of something that's unfamiliar and unknown. Going back to music, if you know a few keys, chord progressions, have a better grasp on rhythm and harmony and how you can employ these, learning some of these fundamentals is not going to rob you of your creativity. The magic is not going to disappear, and no one's asking you to learn how to read sheet music or, create huge orchestral compositions or anything like that. Maybe think about vocal tuning and how you can apply that to your production. Maybe study some different drum breaks and grooves, some different bass programming or sound design on your favorite synth. This is all music theory, and it just prepares you to, again, express yourself with more ease when the time comes. This video isn't sponsored, so I'd like to take 30 seconds to talk about my plugin, BSA Reviver. It's a transient shaper that distinguishes between transient and sustained material in the lows, mids, and highs of your mixes, masters, or individual tracks. It then intelligently brings some of those transients back, which makes your mixes sound louder, punchier, and more dynamic. In short, it revives your tracks. If you'd like to try it out for free, I've got a link to the free trial down below in the description, and it's also one of the best ways to support my videos. I already know this one's going to annoy so many people, but it's that you should apply gain compensation before and after processing so that you can hear exactly what the processing is doing. Now, for my videos, I try to roughly gain match so that you can hear the difference more clearly, but this is quite specific to individual processes and video production, When you're making music, it's really not as critical. And the reason for this is, if you are applying gain matching before and after applying processing, how should you apply that gain matching? And this is a question for everyone that will criticize me here. How would you apply the gain matching? Would you match the peak level? Well, that makes sense, but then if you've applied any compression or dynamic processing, that means that matching the peaks, one will have a much higher average level. Okay, so let's match them on the averages. How do you want to do that? RMS, LUFS? Should we match the short-term loudness over just a sample or a whole section of the song? And then once we have matched the average, one of them's going to have a higher true peak value, so those transients are going to sound louder to us, maybe again tricking us into thinking they're better. This whole discussion is just incredibly boring, uncreative, and just unproductive. I'm pretty sure that I'm sending some people to sleep just talking about this. It really is not how music is made. I think you should try to get things roughly in the same ballpark, because yes, if something is 2, 3, 4 dB louder, it's probably going to sound better to you. And the reason I bring this up is that sometimes I make a video sharing something that maybe took me years to figure out, and there's a very small minority of people that only have a mind to criticize it because I didn't quite level match the way that they would have liked it done. While those sorts of people and commenters are in the tiny minority of the audience, I just think it's not a really helpful and productive place to be when you're trying to make music. There are times when you need to level match things perfectly for doing ABX tests, or when you're trying to phase cancel stuff, do a null test, but that's much more applicable when you're designing plugins or testing, you're a beta tester for software. I've done a bunch of that myself, but I never do any of that when I'm creating music, mixing, or mastering. It's just not helpful. I mentioned this in my last video, and that's that doing a rough mix is probably one of the most important steps you can take when mixing. So you've got to be careful that maybe your processing isn't applying 5, 10 dB of gain to a channel, because that could be pushing you quite far from your rough mix. But if you can't hear maybe a 5, 10 dB change in your mix, then there's definitely a bigger issue to be addressed than worrying about gain matching. I think at that point you need to step back and really listen to the whole song. But of course, if you actually enjoy using metering and you like being very precise and scientific like that, please go ahead. I'm not here to stop anyone doing whatever they enjoy. But at least in my opinion, I think making art and music is more meaningful when you sort of get lost in the process of it, instead of worrying about all the little details of the processing. I'm going to leave it there for today. I've got so many other topics that I could debunk or sort of address, so do let me know if you enjoy this and you'd like to see more of it. I also just recently broke my computer, so I'm probably going to be off for a week or two while I'm getting that fixed, and this also gives me a chance to sort of get on top of a few tasks that I need to address, like putting a ceiling cloud above me, some things I've been putting off for a very long time. So I'm mentioning it here to try and keep me accountable to the audience, so if I come back in a couple of weeks and that's not done, you can all bother me about it. So anyway, thank you very much, I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now. So can they have 10 minutes of my time? Is that okay? And then we'll go for a walk. Yeah, you can go for a walk. 10 minutes. Okay, off. Good boy.